Hello, listeners. Welcome back to another episode of the 815 LSx Talk podcast. Today we have our second guest on the show, and that is Casey from Patina Pitstop. I was excited when Casey said he would come on to the podcast with us. He is another car tuber that I met early on in my social media journey, and it's always good to have other car tubers on here and talk car talk. And hopefully you guys all enjoy. After this podcast, be sure to go check out his YouTube channel, and that is Patina Pitstop. So hope you guys enjoy this episode. I know I did, and let's get right to it. All right, so go ahead and let everybody know who's listening what your name is and tell them a little bit about your channel.
All right, my name is Casey, and my channel is Patina Pitstop on YouTube, also on Instagram and TikTok. I do a little bit on there. Is Patina Pitstop basically follows me and my 1964 Chevelle station wagon, and sometimes some tech tips or DIY stuff. Although I'm not great at all that stuff, but sometimes I do that stuff just to make more content. So
very cool. I think we met through Narcs, if I remember right. He tagged me on one of your Instagram posts, I think maybe when you were at GLD, and kind of said we needed to get together and shoot a video.
Yeah. At the time, I was living in Wisconsin, and so I know you're pretty close to the border right there. And I think we figured out we were probably like 45 minutes to an hour away from each other. And so we never did do a collaboration. I've since moved to Tennessee, but we've kind of stayed in contact. And there's a message feed between you, me, and Narcs that is pretty entertaining. So
yeah, we probably chat, I don't know, maybe once a week at least.
Yeah, we kind of bounce ideas off each other and talk about ideas or cars that we shouldn't buy but want to, and that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. We'll get into all that stuff in a little bit. Why don't you tell them a little bit more about your car?
So my 64 Chevelle Wagon, I've had it about 10 years. It is got a lot of patina. So if you do check out my Instagram or YouTube, you'll see it. And my dad actually found the car in Georgia, and he's like, this looks like the kind of car you would like. And it is, it's right up my alley. It's like perfect for me. And so when we got it, it had a 350 engine and transmission, but the engine was worn out, and someone had put that in there. It was a 6-cylinder Power Glide car originally, and they had done the exhaust, and they had recovered the front seat, and that was pretty much it. The car was otherwise pretty much untouched. Since then, it's had 2 different engines since that engine, 2 different transmissions. I swapped the rear end. I went from 4-wheel drum brakes to 4-wheel disc brakes. It's got a 12-bolt rear end posi now compared to the 10-bolt that it had originally. So mechanically on the car, I have touched pretty much every nut and bolt. Everything has been upgraded or changed mechanically. The outside looks exactly the same as it did 10 years ago. Actually, I've never washed the car. I can proudly say I've never washed the car. I've cleaned the windows and cleaned the bumpers, and that's about it. Otherwise, the car hasn't changed. The outside looks exactly the same as it did the day I got it 10 years ago. So it's a really cool car. It gets a lot of attention, and I won't go into plans about what I would like to do. We might talk about that later, but I have it's one of those cars that I'll never sell. I guess I'll put it that way.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You got to keep the windows clean. Obviously, you got to be able to see out of them when you're driving.
But knock the bugs off and knock the bugs off the bumper and the grill, and then that's it. And I'm ready to go to a car show.
Right. So you said it went through a couple engines and couple transmissions already?
Yeah, the engine that was in it when I got it was just a worn out 350. And it was burning like, I think it would go through a quart of oil every 100 miles.
Oh, wow.
So it was actually fouling the spark plugs out. It was really, really excessively burning oil. And I put a stock 350 in it, and it actually was slower. It was a fresh engine, but it didn't run as good as the engine that was in it. And I couldn't handle that. So then I got this engine, was the engine that's in it now. I actually built it 20 some years ago to put into a drag car I had. And so the cam in it is too big. The cylinder heads were really good heads 20 years ago. Now they're, kind of but at the time it was it's probably 380 to 400 horsepower at the flywheel. I've never dynoed it or anything like that. It's a good running engine. And I actually did some trading with my dad to get this engine to put it in my wagon. And then I switched from a 350 transmission to a 200 4R overdrive transmission, which is like a Grand National Monte Carlo SS transmission from the 80s. And I like that transmission because it's the same length as a 350. So you have to move the cross member, but it's still the same drive shaft that the car came with when it was original. So I've changed the engines in it twice. I've changed the transmission to an overdrive, which is nice. And then the rear end is a 12 bolt that has got a 410 gear in it. And but with the overdrive, it's turning like 2,400 RPM going down the highway at 70 miles an hour. So you can drive it on the street, cruise down the highway, and it does okay. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, you definitely can't complain about that. It's nice just to be able to jump in and take it anywhere and not worry about which roads you can take and where you can't take it, for sure.
Yeah, it makes it nice. That's really what I want the car to be able to do, is, to be able to go on a trip if I want to, kind of thing.
So what is all done to that motor? Yeah, I know you mentioned there's a cam in it, but anything else?
The bottom end is pretty much stock. It's a 350 30 over flat top, 4 eyebrow relief pistons. The crank and rods are stock. The heads are world product heads. They've been ported and flowed. It has it had 202 valves, and I went up to 205 valves because a couple of them weren't seating right. So I just went ahead and put bigger valves in it. It's a Lanati Bracket Master 2 cam that is way too big for the street. Well, it needs more stall, and I only have like a 2,500 stall in it.
Okay.
Because the 200 4R transmission, it's super expensive to get like a really good stall. And I didn't want to have it slipping driving on the highway. So I didn't put a big stall in it. And that really is what hurts the 60 foot times when I race it. But, I have long-term goals, and that would probably be, eventually that thing will probably get an LS. So, but for now, it sounds really good, and it runs decent for a 3,700 pound car. So,
you got my approval for an LS for sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's in someday. That's what my long-term goal would be.
So you said you built that motor 20-ish years ago for a drag car you had then. What was that?
I had a 72 Nova. It was red. It was a street strip car too, but it ran 1270s, 1260s, 1270s. And in like the late 90s for a street strip car, that was pretty respectable. I know nowadays that's not even, no one would even probably look at it twice, but for a 28-year-old kid, or 20, when I first built it, I guess I was 21, 22 years old. It was a pretty quick car. The Nova weighs a lot less than the wagon did or does. And so it was, high 12-second car, and I could drive it on the street, and it would hurt feelings, on the street. It was quick enough that the Camaros and Mustangs of that day, it would walk away from them. So,
So whatever happened with that car?
funny story. Well, not funny story. The house that I lived in Georgia, a tornado hit the house and ripped the roof off the house, and it knocked the garage doors in. And when the garage door fell on the back of the Nova and then slid down the quarter panels and just ruined the paint job. And I'd pulled that engine out and I was building it. And so I'd taken the insurance off the car because I thought, well, I'm not driving the car, so why insure a car that I'm not driving? And when the insurance company, looked at the house and gave me a check to fix the house, they wouldn't pay for the car. And they said, well, the car needs car insurance. And I'm like, well, I wasn't driving it, so I took the insurance off. And they said, so you're not getting anything for the car. So I was looking back, I should have just sucked it up, but I was so mad about it that I put the car for sale online. And a guy that's a friend of mine, actually, well, I've kept up with him. The guy that bought the car, he races it in NHRA stock eliminator. He still has the car to this day. We're still friends on Facebook, and I periodically bug him to buy the car back, and he won't sell it back to me. But the rule was, when I sold it to him, we signed a piece of paper that said, if he ever sells it, he has to give me first dibs. And he says he will, but I don't think he's ever going to sell it. A couple of years back, I think he was between jobs and kind of hurting for money. And I hit him up, kind of at a low point. And he's like, I'll sell a kidney before I sell that car. So I don't think I'll get it back, but at least it's still racing. It does wheelies. He's got it. I think he's got it to run low 11s, high 10s in the quarter mile. So he's done awesome things with it, which makes me feel good that it's not just sitting in a barn somewhere, but it's long gone as far as I'm concerned.
That's actually a pretty cool story. It kind of, sucks that happened, but the story behind it and that it's still out driving is actually pretty cool.
Yeah. It's nice that I can keep up with it. Like I said, me and him, we'll send each other messages every once in a while. And, I love seeing anytime he goes racing with it. A lot of times he'll tag me in the videos or the pictures. We've never gotten back together. He lived in Georgia at the time since he's moved to Michigan. And so I've tried to meet him at a race, but we've never hooked up at the same time. So hopefully someday I'll get to see the car again. I've seen it since I sold it to him, but it's probably been over 15 years since I've seen it. And he says he'll let me make a pass in it because, it was my car. So I think he would trust me to run it. So hopefully maybe someday I'll get to a track where he's racing and I can make a test pass. That would be really cool. So
yeah, that would be awesome to see.
Yeah.
Very cool. So we talked a little bit about you used to live here near me in Wisconsin. So it sounds like you were living in Arkansas even before that.
So I grew up in Georgia, moved to Wisconsin in 2004, and then lived there for 17 years. And when my daughters graduated from high school, and my wife's daughter graduated from high school last year, we were like, I think it's time to go someplace warmer. So we literally just picked a spot on the map and decided to move to Nashville, Tennessee, and just found a job and packed everything up. And there's actually a YouTube video on my channel about that. It's the move from Wisconsin to Nashville. And it was a really good decision for us. Love the weather down here. We're just getting into wintertime now. As this is being recorded, it's November. And I think I've had to wear a jacket once. I'm walking around in a t-shirt, and the people around here are like, bundled up, and I'm like, this is still good. So I'll take this all year around.
So what are the temperatures there about this time?
Well, today, just because I don't know what it was in Illinois today, but it was 70 degrees here today. And it's, November 17th at this recording. So it was 70 today. I was in a t-shirt. It was nice out today. Typically, I think the coldest day we've had, the high was still in the mid 50s. So it's really nice.
Yeah, there's no complaints about that.
No, not at all.
So when you decided to move, had you picked out a place yet to live or found a job, or was it just last minute up and go?
My wife and I were both looking for a job. I got a job offer. So then we basically just picked Nashville. So we were just looking in the Nashville area. When I got the job offer, then we were able to say, okay, where my job is going to be on the east side of Nashville. So let's look for something in that area. So then we actually came down here in February and drove around and found an apartment, and did, like our scouting of the area, picked out an apartment, and then moved down here. So, someday we'll maybe get a house or something like that. But the way the market is at this time, we're just going to kind of enjoy the apartment life, and no snow removal and no cutting the grass. And just the downside is I have 2 one-car garages on 2 separate sides of the apartment complex, because I couldn't get 2 next to each other. So I have car parts all crammed in one, and then my toolbox and jacks and jack stands and everything else in the other one. And so it's a little bit difficult to work on stuff, because I try to be quiet. I don't want to make noise and wake people up. And probably the biggest thing is when I make videos, people walk by, and then I'll stop talking because they'll look at me. And I've had people walk in front of the camera as I'm talking. They'll be behind me and they'll walk behind me, and I'll be like, all right, then I have to start over again with what I'm talking about. So that's happened. That's probably the biggest negative to try to make YouTube videos while living in an apartment complex is you can't control everybody else around you. So
right. Yeah, definitely the market right now, your best bet would probably be to stay in the apartment until some of that comes down, and then actually be able to get a decent place for a decent price again.
yeah, that's kind of our theory. We sold when the market was really good. And, I'm not, wishing anything on all the people that own houses now, but I'm hoping the market crashes. And then like the 2008 thing, I sold my last house before this previous house. I sold the last house at the crash of the last market and lost a lot of money on my last house. So I feel like the market owes me an upswing, and then I'll have a better turnaround on the next house I buy. So
Yeah, I've looked at houses in Tennessee in general, and it seems like, normal times you can get a fairly decent place with, a nice amount of land and place for garages at a fairly reasonable price.
yeah, I think if the market was a little more normal, I think it wouldn't be too hard to find something. And now that we've been here 9 months now, so we're starting to be able to okay, we know the area, we know the schools, we know the good and bad things. So it will help us maybe make a decision. Do we move a little bit farther out? How far away from Nashville is too far away? Right now we're 20 minutes from Nashville. We don't want to be out in the country, but we don't want to be, we gotta, you can kind of figure all that out when you've been someplace for a little while and get a lay of the land, kind of, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking on your YouTube channel, you were talking a little bit about recording videos. How did you get started in YouTube and the whole Patina Pitstop stuff in general?
I've always watched roadkill. I loved, that's kind of what I really was a big fan of roadkill from the start. And then I was watching Finnegan's Garage, and on Finnegan's Garage, he had a friend, and his name is Jacob Davis. And he's got the green Hornet. It's a 72 AMC Hornet Sportabout station wagon. And it's a, straight 6 automatic, and he put nitrous on it. And I thought that was just the coolest thing. And then Jacob started his own YouTube channel. And I kind of was watching that. I was like, well, why don't I do that? I have a unique patinaed station wagon. I think that would draw attention, and that people would like to see it. So that's why I really wanted to start documenting what I'm doing to the car. And I wanted the car to really, my goal for my wagon is to be a jack of all trades. I want the wagon to be able to do Rocky Mountain Race Week, hot rod power tour, go to a car cruise on a Saturday night, go to the ice cream shop with the kid and, do everything with it, be a car that can do a cross country trip or go drag racing or do Rocky Mountain Race Week. I want the car to be able to do a little bit of everything. And so then that's why I started the YouTube channel. It's like, okay, let's follow my car and what I'm doing with it. And hopefully it's interesting to people. And then along the way, just life gets busy and I wanted, I'm like, well, I need to make more content. So then my wife is like, you need to make more how-to videos. And I try to explain to her that I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm really not that good of a mechanic. Like my tagline is I'm a below average backyard mechanic, which is 100% accurate. I'm not, I'm not a master technician. I'm kind of a hack. I know just enough to get myself in trouble. And so I have some tips, and some of the tech tip videos I've had have done really well. I've had one of my kind of just a content video that I did is I did one for Flex Seal, and it was this rear axle that was leaking on a Toyota pickup truck. And I said, I'm going to see if I can fix it with Flex Seal. And I thought it was kind of a joke, and it actually worked. I really took my time and cleaned it all up and Flex Sealed the whole rear axle, and the leak stopped. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And that video's got like 11,000 views now. So, and then Flex Seal sent me a whole box full of stuff. Yep. Flex tape, flex paste, flex glue. They sent me a hat and a beer koozie and all kinds of stuff. So that was pretty cool too, because I tagged them in the video. So yeah, that's really what the YouTube channel started off with, was following the wagon and then doing some other stuff. And then when I bought my current daily driver, which is an 86 Chevy S10, it is, it's a base model. It's an El Cheapo, and it's got the typical 80s GM paint that is flaking off. So it's got, 80s patina. And I thought, well, I'll make some videos about what I'm doing with that, with the truck too. And it seems like it's done pretty well on the channel too. It kind of fits in with the patina thing a little bit. So
that's pretty cool. And it's good to see you being able to do the wagon and the S10. I know I've seen some of those videos. When did you actually start your YouTube channel?
So my first video I ever did, I think I posted it 4 years ago next month.
Okay. And how many subscribers are you at right now?
Another video for 8. It was that's the zip tie trick to cut an exhaust, and that video has like over 100,000 views. And I actually posted the video, and I didn't really think nothing of it. I wasn't, I didn't even have the name of the channel as Patina Pitstop at that point. And I think about 8-9 months later, I went on YouTube and I looked, and it had like 8,000 views. And I was like, holy cow, like I didn't even, people were watching it. So I really at that point hadn't decided to make a channel. Like really, I just posted that video because I thought it was a good idea. And as I slowly started making videos, and if you look back, my first year or two, I made maybe 3 or 4 videos. In the last year, 18 months, I think I've made 15 videos. So I'm trying to get more of the once a month, twice a month thing. I'm constantly filming stuff that I'm doing, and then I try to see if I can put it together with a story or make it make sense as far as putting out a video. I have a lot of stuff that I record that I just can't figure out how to make a story out of it, or it's not something where I have like a start, middle, and finish. So I don't post that, but I'm trying to get better at just recording more of what I do and then, making a story out of it if I can at some point. So.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. We've been doing the weekly videos now for, I think, 4 months. Every weekend we've dropped a video, and sometimes you just go out to the garage and you start wrenching on stuff, and before you know it, you completed what you wanted to do, but you didn't record a single thing of it. And that's some of the stuff that we struggle with too, especially on the Mustang. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna go out and I'm gonna, put on these wastegates. And then I do like three or four other things, and it's like, wow, I made a bunch of progress today, which is awesome, but I didn't record any of it. So then you got to try to piece the videos that you do have together, and it does make it tricky for sure.
It takes so much time, and anyone that's watching this that does YouTube videos, you understand that sometimes it's almost like you don't want to start working on something because you're like, I got to set the camera up, I got to explain what I'm doing. It takes so much extra time just to document what you're doing, to document it well, to put the camera in a spot where you can see good or hear, or the light is okay. And sometimes it's hard to, it can be discouraging. It takes so much time, and it makes, something that's a simple project, so much harder. And then sometimes I'll record stuff and I'll watch it back and I'm like, I wouldn't watch this so I'm like, this looks boring. So like, all right, edit, cut all that out. And then, I'll come up with some more, content later, and sometimes that's, I've had hours of stuff that I've recorded and I'm like, that's boring. I'm not talking, or, it's just watching me, the back of my head while I'm underneath a car doing something. And I'm like, well, nothing funny happened. So edit, and, something, if I smash my finger or something, then that's interesting. So then I'll put that in. But besides that, it's like, why? No one's going to want to watch that. So it's a balancing act to make what is good content, and there's so many guys making YouTube videos about cars right now. It's hard to be original and different and funny and entertaining, and not, copy Cletus or not copy Vice Grip Garage, or I've been watching Pudding's Fad Shop lately, and he's hilarious, but I'm like, okay, when I turn the camera on, don't do what he does, because it's what you want to do, because that's what you've been watching. So then you want to do the things that you see, and the things that are funny. So it's difficult to sometimes balance that.
Absolutely. And you mentioned it. It's not just getting the camera set up and doing the recording and your intros and outros. It's the editing too. So, and I don't know how much time you spend editing, but I know I spend a fair amount of time editing our videos, and then I'll render it and rewatch it, and it's like, oh, there's this one little thing, and if I don't fix it, it's going to bother me. And then you start over again, and before you know it, you spend hours putting those videos together. And it's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, a 15-minute video, when I first started, 15-minute video was 4 hours worth of editing. And I was like, this can't be how they all do it. Like, it's partly because I must not know what I'm doing, which is, I'm sure, part of it. But it, to make it interesting, you're like, wow, there's so much of this is boring, and you cut it and you cut it. And then if you try to do fancy stuff, that really makes it, like if you try to zoom in on something, or you try to do a flashback where, like, I said something earlier and then it came back to bite me. And then I'll be like, I'll put the flashback and then make it like black and white. And I'm like, all that stuff in the video takes 7 seconds, but it took me 20 minutes to make that happen. But it makes such a difference in the way the video looks, and it makes it more interesting, and it makes it look more professional. But you're like, if they realize it took me 15 minutes to do that 7-second little clip that is funny, I'm so proud of it. But it's wow, it's so hard to do that stuff, unless you're, I guess if you're like Cletus, he doesn't have to do any of that funny stuff, because he's got the viewership where he can just, film with his phone and you're going to watch it, so it's, as the little guy is trying to make a name for yourself, it's a lot of work to just make decent content.
And it's not only making decent content, it's trying to get it out in front of people. Because I feel like, maybe I'm biased towards our channel, but I feel like we've got good content. But it's like, how do I get it out in front of people to be able to watch it?
Yeah. Yeah. And you never know what's going to take off. Like, you never know what's going to catch fire or all of a sudden go viral and, all of a sudden draw a bunch of people in. One of the channels that I watched is Broken Gear. And it's kind of like your channel. It's two guys, two buddies working on cars and stuff. And it's the same basic recipe. They revive old cars or they're pulling something out of a barn. And all of a sudden he bought an old Dodge Charger, like an old dirt track car. And it looks a lot like Mike Finnegan's Roadkill Charger. And that video like has 80,000 views, like almost immediately, and blew his channel up. But for whatever reason, people find old Dodge Chargers interesting. And it's not even on a Charger frame. It's on like a Chevy Caprice frame or something, but it had a Mopar engine and it was an old dirt track car. And for some reason that took off. And it's like, finding that magic sauce that makes people click on it. And then once it starts to grow, then all of a sudden it snowballs and it starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And next thing you know, you have a successful video and people are coming to your channel, and then hopefully they go back and look at your old videos and be like, oh, okay, this guy's been pretty good for a while. Why didn't I see him before?
Right. And for us, the thing I always tell people is I'm going to be doing what I'm doing, whether I'm recording it or not. So as long as I take the little bit of time to set up the camera and get the shots, I'm not doing anything that I wouldn't be doing any other weekend. So it's just I guess it's just an extra step, and, a few more hours of editing, but I'm not doing anything different.
Yeah. And I think that's the big thing is, if I'm going to be working on my car, it's going to be what I want to do. Yeah, you can try to find that car that's going to make your channel grow. But if it's not something you're passionate about, it's not going to be exciting. So, my station wagon, like, I love my car. So I'm just documenting what I'm doing to my car, and hopefully other people like it. My S10, I think it's a cool daily driver. It's a 1986. So I'm daily driving a 36-year-old car or whatever. So that's, what I would do anyway. The bonus to me is that I can make videos and hopefully they, get people excited about it. Like I said, not saying I won't try to make some videos sometimes just to see if I can tap into that market. But, for the most part, most of my videos are going to be stuff that I'm doing anyway, just like you said.
Yeah. And the stuff that, I'm building, at least with the Mustang, it's an LS swap Fox body. It's what you can see at every drag strip on every given weekend. But for me, it's trying to show you don't have to be the greatest mechanic or fabricator just to put something together and go have fun with it. So, the hot side build on the Mustang was all straight sections that we just pie cut and welded together. And it's nothing fancy, but hopefully next year when I can get it to the track, it'll be fun. And that's all I'm looking for. I'm not looking for, breaking any Fox body records or LS records. I just want a fun car, and I like building LSs. I'm comfortable with them, and that's just kind of my thing. So that's what I'm going to do. And there's definitely two sides to the LS. There's people that love it and there's people that hate it. So, and I'm going to get both of them that watch the video and
right,
just go from there.
Right. Well, and like I said, you're going to get someone that's going to come on there that are looking for ideas. Well, how did he, I'm sure the LS and a Fox body, combination is such a popular one that, you never know. Someone might stumble upon just trying to figure out, where am I going to mount my turbos, or where am I going to mount my intercooler? And then if they come across your videos and be like, oh, this guy made, this plate to put in my bumper. And, that's the kind of thing that's going to help, the next guy that's building his car. How many times have you been out in the garage and you're like, how does this work? And then you go to YouTube to figure out how how do I set this up, or am I doing this right? I'm putting a shift kit in my transmission on my station wagon right now, and the TV cable, which is like the kickdown cable, it's really particular how you do it on those transmissions. So sure enough, I went on to YouTube, and this guy with the Grand National is showing how he adjusted his TV cable. And so I'm out in the garage and I'm doing exactly what he was doing. And I actually had to get my neighbor. I'm like, okay, got my neighbor to come over, push the gas pedal all the way to the floor. And then I pulled the cable, adjusted it. And then I went underneath and I had the transmission pan off. And I could actually look at where it goes into the transmission and see that, okay, yep, it is fully engaging. So I'm going to make that part of my video, me adjusting it and showing that. So maybe when someone else goes to it, they'll find out how to adjust your, TV cable on a 200 4-hour transmission. Well, then maybe they'll see my station wagon and start watching the rest of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good thing. I know we even just got somebody today that commented on one of the BMW videos that's doing a very similar, sounds like a twin turbo LS swap, and just started asking questions. And this was one of our older videos, so I'm guessing that's exactly how he found it, was just searching twin turbo BMW and stumbled across our video. So he asked the question, we responded, and he subscribed. So hopefully we get definitely more of that kind of stuff going forward. And especially now that we're getting into the El Camino, there seems to be a lot of following on that too. And those aren't your normal LS swaps. So my two cars, the Fox Body and the 240, those are pretty common LS swaps. But the El Camino, maybe. I haven't seen too many myself, the BMW. So hopefully those ones will start to drive people more to the channel too.
Right. And then you never know, somebody that goes on, that's the guy with the BMW, he posted on, some, Facebook group that he's in and says, hey, check out this. And then 4 or 5 that stuff grows, and it takes time, but that's the kind of stuff that can maybe help branch you into a different group of people that you didn't have before. And with the El Camino, I've never been a big El Camino guy until Cletus built the mullet, the one he has now, and it's like, I don't know, that car's pretty cool looking. So it made me look at El Caminos a little different, and they have that versatility. Really, like if you're going to do like a drag week or a Rocky Mountain race week, you have all that room in the back to haul stuff if you're going to go on a big drag and drive, so that's kind of that's one reason why I like station wagons. I think my wagon will be really good because I'll be able to keep everything in the car and, maybe not even need to take a trailer with me. So, that's kind of neat that the El Caminos are kind of funny, is that, some guy in Florida is making, crazy, LS twin turbo El Camino, and now El Caminos are getting popular, which, he did the same thing for Crown Vics, I guess. So.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that until now, but maybe that's some of the reason our El Camino videos are hitting, is because there is more popularity to it since he did mullet.
Yeah. Which, and it's not like you guys built it because of that, but it's ride that wave,
Absolutely. I've also been thinking, I know you kind of hit on a little bit about those trim rings, and I think I'm going to do like a how-to video on just installing one.
Oh, yeah.
There's not much to it, but how did I mark out where I'm going to lay it? How did I cut it? How did I rivet it? And I just got a bumper from a buddy of mine for a New Edge Mustang, so I'm working on something for that. So maybe if I do that, I think I might try to put, just a quick how-to video, and then I can put that up, and that might also help drive people to, looking at my page and seeing what else I have.
Yeah. Those trim ring things are so cool. And like I said, as soon as I saw it, I was like, what else can you do that with? What other cars and immediately, and I think me and you had talked about this in our text feed, the you go to the drag strip and there's always those cars with a full front, full fiberglass front end. And, and then they just, hole saw 4 or 5 holes right in the middle of the front, grill area. And I'm like, man, it would look so much better if they had that trim ring thing. So like, I think that would be a really cool way to maybe tap into that, where you could make something where the guys can paint it and they can make it look cool, or they can put it down low to scoop air in. I mean, it seems like the possibilities are endless for those things. So I think that's going to be really cool for you guys and your channel. And I'm looking for, something to put one on, just because I think that, just like, I think they're cool looking, and I think that would be neat to put it on, whatever kind of car I can come up with a reason to put one on, and or maybe make it a little bigger or a little smaller, just depends on what you need,
Yep. Yeah, I think I sent you a picture in our text group about the one I just did for a 80s Malibu as well. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that was the lower fairing that got replaced with a fiberglass, and he was looking for something. So he just sent me some dimensions, and I did some CAD modeling up and sent him some designs, and we ended up settling on something. So I'm looking forward to him sending me a picture when it's completed, so that I can kind of show that off as well. And then I'm also looking at exhaust trim rings now. I know a ton of people make them, but I figured for the Fox body, I'm going to make my own because, why not?
Yeah.
And then who knows? We'll see how they go. Maybe I come up with some unique design that somebody else isn't making already. I haven't figured that out yet, but if I can come up with something kind of cool that's a little more unique, maybe I can start doing something like that as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Those things are really cool. Like I really like that, and so I think they might take a little while to get going, but I think they're going to be a good thing for you guys and your channel. I think they're really a cool design, and they look really good, and so I'm excited to kind of watch you guys grow with that one and be like, yeah, I knew that guy when he first started making those.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the dream. I know we've done some of the brackets as well. So Dan's been doing the power steering BMW to LS bracket. So I know he just put another order in for those. So those are doing pretty well too. So it's just anything anything when you go out to your garage and you're like, I wish I had this, or how am I gonna mount this? That's the kind of stuff that we're looking at. It's like, if we can help put out a bracket for something, that's what we want to try to do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're not the only guys that are running into that, especially with, the Fox bodies and even, the BMWs and the 240. I mean, like, people are building those cars, are doing what you guys are doing. So there's got to be a market for parts for those type of things.
Absolutely. So we talked about your car. One thing I did want to talk about was I know you had a video on mounting those hubcaps, and that was something kind of unique, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And it didn't turn out great. I mean, like, it worked. And I probably ruined a set of weld wheels by doing it. So if you guys haven't seen the video, check it out. It's the wrong way to install dog dish hubcaps, and I wanted to put some old school dog dish wheels on my wagon, but I didn't want to buy a set of wheels. And I had a set of steel wheels that I bought right after I bought the car. And because I've always wanted that steel wheel look to it, the real plain Jane look. And I bought the wrong kind of steel wheels. I bought the ones where the moon cap, the chrome moon cap, goes inside the wheel, and the dog dish cap mounts on the outside. And they sell these little tabs that you can put on wheels to snap them on. So I was like, well, that's no big deal. I can drill holes in the steel wheels and put those caps on. But on the front wheels, I wanted to run my really, really skinny weld wheels. And so I just ran a self tapper and just put the holes in it and popped the hubcap on, and it actually worked. The couple of things I did wrong. One of them was I used the peel paint where when you paint it on, you can peel it off later. Cause I was like, well, if I don't like this or this doesn't work, I don't want to have to sand these wheels. So I bought that kind of paint, and it doesn't last super long. And it started peeling off. And then I lost one of the hubcaps going down the road, and I probably put over 200 miles on it. And then one day I was driving on the road and I heard one, I lost it, and it was on the back. And it went into a cornfield in Wisconsin, and I couldn't find it. And partly because I didn't have a passenger side mirror on my car at the time. So I heard it and I looked and I couldn't see it. And then I had my son with me, and he was 4 at the time. And walking down the side of the road with my 4-year-old trying to find a hubcap didn't seem super safe. So I gave up on it, and I never went back to look for it. And so I ended up putting the Corvette rallies back on it. And maybe someday I'll go back to the steel wheels again. I kind of have a different plan. I think what I'm going to do is I want to go with more of an old school drag car look if I change the wheels again. So I think what I might do is put the steel wheels in the back, painted black, like a flat black. And then I'd like to put the old style American Racing torque thrust in the front. So that was real popular back in the early 60s to have steel wheels in the back. And because, they just didn't have that many wheels back then. There wasn't that many choices. And so I think, the American Racing wheels in the front and the steel wheels in the back, I'm really limited with that car in back spacing and tire and wheel size. That Chevelle, the 64 Chevelles, especially the station wagons, the way the fender goes over the back tire, you got to like jack the car way up and let the rear end down. And then you have to like squeeze the wheel and tire in there. And it's really hard to get a very wide wheel, and I have to have a ton of back spacing. On a 7-inch wheel, I use 4.5 inches of back spacing. I haven't tried an 8, but I'd probably do 5.5-inch back spacing, which is a lot. And it's hard to find wheels that I can't find, like the American Racing wheels, the old torque thrust. They don't make that back spacing unless you get like a custom wheel made, and then that's like $300-400 a wheel. So I think I'm just going to do the skinny ones in the front and steel wheels in the back. But so, yeah, that's a long story for how the dog dish hubcap video. It worked for a little while, and then I never did talk about it. Like I just put the rally wheels back on it and then never said nothing. So I've always wondered, like, if people are like, hey, what happened? He put those wheels on it. They were on it for one video and then is never seen again.
Yeah, I think it'd look cool with those torque thrusts on there, though. I kind of like that old school look, especially on a wagon like that.
Yeah, that was kind of, I've seen a lot of pictures of race cars from the 60s, and I think that would be a good look for it, especially because I had those welds before I painted them, the weld wheels, I guess the street lights or whatever, with the 8 round holes in them.
Yep.
And I love the way those wheels look. Like they're like a classic drag racing wheel, but they're shiny. And on my car, my car is not shiny. So I kind of like that subtle look. And the old school torque thrust are, they're not shiny. There's a polished lip, but they're not super shiny. And then the center part's gray. Mm-hmm. And I think if I did that on the front and then just a flat black steel wheel, which I already have the steel wheels, flat black, put them on the back. And I think that would look period correct, I guess, for like an old drag car. I've toyed with the idea of getting someone that does like old school handwrite painting and doing like a Patina Pitstop logo on the door and then, fading it out. I think that would be really cool looking to make it look like a parts runner, or, something like that with the old school Patina Pitstop logo. I think that would be kind of cool too, but I'm scared to mess with the paint on that thing too much. So
no, I think that'd be cool. It gives it that old like shop truck kind of look to it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you should go for it. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. It's something I've toyed with for a long time, and like I said, I've had the car 10 years. I've never had a car that long. I've never kept anything that long, and I've changed the wheels on that thing I don't know, 3 or 4 times. Like I got to do something to it. I'm never going to sell it, but I got to, change the look of it every once in a while.
Right. So, what got you into cars in the first place? And how long have you been kind of modifying, working on, messing with cars?
Uh, I've been in the cars as long as I can remember. My dad, he's a car guy. He grew up. I think his second car was a '57 Chevy. I mean, my dad was an old school car guy, and I bought my first car when I was 14 years old for $200. It was an '81 Pontiac Grand Prix. It didn't run. We had a trailer at home. So, since I was 14 years old, I've had cars. I had 10 cars before I graduated high school. I had bought and sold 10 cars and, flipped them, just changed what I wanted, bought something different, just I was always tinkering with stuff. I guess I tried to think about this a while back. What really made me love cars is, and anyone that's in the Southeast, they will know, in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, there's this huge car show they have twice a year. It's called Grand Rod Run, and it's this all old cars, and it's a huge show. And we went to it the first time when I was probably 7 years old, and it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday deal. And we went to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and the entire town shuts down and it's all old cars. I mean, it's like you went back in time. It's just old hot rods just lining the streets, and it's bumper to bumper. It's like a car show on wheels. So like they just cruise up and down the street constantly. It's like they never stop. And I remember when I was like 7 years old going to that with my dad and my brother, and thought it was the coolest thing that cars are just driving up on all these old cars. And then at nighttime, people would go into their hotel rooms and fill up their little trash cans with water, and they would dump water in the street and then stop cars and make them do burnouts. And I think that's like when I was like, cars are cool. Cars that can do burnouts and spin the tires. And I just was hooked from that point on. And so I've always been tinkering with stuff, working on stuff. When I was in high school, it was, girls and cars, and, probably more cars than girls. Both got me in trouble, but, that's all I cared about when I was in high school. I worked at a grocery store to get money to put money into my '71 Chevelle. I drag raced. I screwed around. First time I ever went to a real drag race, to a real drag strip, I was 17 years old, and I went to the semifinals in a bracket race. No idea what I was doing, and I finished third in the bracket race, and I was hooked. That was it. And so I've been drag racing and working on cars, as long as I can remember, I guess.
That's awesome. That's very similar story. I got a Mustang when I was 13, and I want to say it was $200 as well. I can't remember exactly. But yeah, it was crashed and it needed work, and I did odd end jobs until I could buy a front bumper and I could buy windows. And I remember at my parents' apartment growing up, right out in the parking lot, changing transmissions and doing all that kind of stuff. So, and same thing when I was in high school, working McDonald's and putting money into the cars. But obviously, when I was working and in high school, I was into the imports. That was what was popular then. So, but talking about Pigeon Forge, and that's such a beautiful area. I've been there once, and we've been wanting to go back and visit again. I might have to look and see. Do they still do that car show then?
They do. It's not the same, which I guess anyone that's, it's not like it was in the old days, it usually, I think they do it in September, if I remember right. I think they have one in April and one in September. And the one I think was always the good one was the September car show. And it's changed a lot. There's not nearly as many cars there. And, Pigeon Forge is such a tourist attraction now. There's so much other stuff going on. The road doesn't get just bogged down with cars. The last time I saw one of my buddies, he went, and he said there was a lot of bro trucks, big trucks, tiny tires, sitting the wrong way. There's a lot of those cruising. So it's probably not quite like it was, but it's a good weekend to go. Like if you're going to go to Pigeon Forge, try to figure out which weekend in September it is, and look it up. The last time I probably went was probably 1999, and it even at that point had wasn't as cool as what I remember it as a kid. And maybe my 7-year-old memory was is a little in my mind as a 7-year-old kid, there was not one uncool car on the road. And I'm pretty sure that probably wasn't accurate, but in my mind, the memory I have of it, it was just all cars, and it was just amazing. And every car that pulled up to the water that you had on the street did a burnout. And I know that's probably not accurate either, but you go back to the old days, and it's funny to say that 1984 was the old days, but it was so cool back then to watch those cars just cruise up and down the street. And as soon as I got 16, 17, I took my Chevelle. I had a 71 Chevelle in high school, and I just cruised the whole time I went that weekend. I drove up and down that strip the entire time. And the police have gotten a lot stricter. They don't let you do burnouts and stuff anymore. And sometimes people will sneak and do one, but I got pulled over for goofing off, and I didn't do a burnout, but I was screwing around, and he didn't give me a ticket, but I got pulled over up there. And so I felt like that was like my rite of passage. Like I remember doing this, watching these guys get pulled over when I was a kid, and here I am getting pulled over, 10 years later. It's a good time. And there's so much to do in Pigeon Forge. And I remember as a kid, our big thing is we always wanted to go to the go-kart tracks. There was those go-kart tracks everywhere up there. And it's a good weekend. It's a good family weekend. And you can see some old cars too if you hit the right weekend. So
yeah, I'll definitely have to check that out. It actually kind of sounds like, and being from Wisconsin, you'll probably know what Autorama has been like. I haven't gone to it in quite some time because I feel like it's the same thing. It's kind of not like what it used to be, but that's kind of in my head what I envision you're talking about is probably like.
Yeah. It's still fun. And like I said, that's really, when I think back, that's really when I was like, like cars are like I was all in at that point.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to be able to find a place to bring back something old school like that. I look at all the 60s and 70s pictures of, the old classic restaurants and hot rods, and that's what it was. It was all the cruising around, and I don't know. I obviously wasn't born then, but to be able to have something like that where you could step back in time and be able to see something like that, I think would be pretty cool.
There's two things that I can say are probably similar. The roadkill nights on Woodward Avenue, I haven't been, but that seems to have that similar vibe where it's all car related, driving up and down the street. That seems to have that same vibe. And then the other thing, which you're close enough, you should do this, is go to, if you've never been to Back to the 50s in St. Paul, Minnesota. Usually it's like the Father's Day weekend in June. And I've been to Back to the 50s 3 times. I've went twice with my car. It's 1964 and older cars. That's the only cars that are allowed on the fairgrounds. It's the Minnesota State Park Fairgrounds, 1964 and older. And there's usually 10 or 11,000 cars. And you wouldn't think there'd be that many 1964 and older, but it is packed. And some of them are beautiful cars. Some of them are rat rods. Some of them are, not that special, 4-door, 53 Plymouth something, but it's really cool. And the fairgrounds, the Minnesota fairgrounds, are really cool the way it's set up. It's kind of like a little town, and some people just cruise around, and it's a 3-day show. And I promise you could walk all 3 days from the time they open to the time they close, and you won't see everything. I mean, there's just there's 10, 11,000 cars, and it's really kind of like you're going back in time, because literally there won't be anything newer than 1964. So there's no Mustangs, there's no Camaros, there's no, think about everything that wasn't built in 64. My Chevelle is the only Chevelle year, because that's the first year of the Chevelle. It's just, there's GTOs, there's Chevelles, but no Mustangs, no Camaros, no Vegas, no, there's so many cars that they're made after that. It's really cool. So you see so many 55, 56, 57 Chevys, and you'll see, old, Model Ts and Model As, and you'll see ones that are stock, and then you'll see ones that are, street rods. And it's really a cool show. If anything, just look it up and you'll see some pictures and videos of it. It is probably the closest thing to go back in time. I mean, it's back to the 50s, but I mean, it's like you're going back in time when you go, and they have all old music, and, like the old jukebox kind of sound and music playing everywhere. And it's a really cool time.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to look that up. That sounds like that would be pretty fun. Have to mark that on the calendar as maybe a to-do item.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun. It's definitely, and it's family friendly. They have cotton candy and, cookies and stuff for the kids to do and everything. And we were going to go, and COVID messed that up in 2020. And then we moved. So then now we're not close. So I think I'll do it again someday. It'd just be a little bit longer drive now, making their trip up to Minnesota. So I got family. I got aunts and uncles that live in Minnesota. So we always have a place to stay, at least when I go. So it's always a good time.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. And I have heard a lot of good stuff about the stuff on Woodward Avenue in Michigan. I know we go up there to visit family a couple times a year. And our next trip that we go, we're going to go over to Detroit, and I want to go by Tom Bailey's pizza place and do some of that stuff. So we'll be right around that area. I might just have to time it when they do one of those like roadkill nights type events.
Yeah. I've wanted to do that. I think that would be pretty fun. It seems like that's one way to get maybe your car noticed by the magazine, or, some of the shows that you see a lot of the popular, some of the popular YouTube, like Alex Taylor, she's raced up there and stuff. So you'll see some of the YouTube guys that kind of get into that. Nick, his name's Nick. I can't remember what his last name is. He used to have the Dirty 30. Hustlin' Horsepower is his YouTube channel. So he's been up there, raced a couple of times. I know the guys from Mac TV, the Mountain Dew Mustang. I think they won, this past year. And I know that those guys have been on Narc's channel. So I know they've been to it. So yeah, it's kind of gotten, it's gotten a lot of notoriety, and it's kind of a way to kind of make a name for yourself. And it's racing on the street, which is kind of cool to, be able to race right on the street. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely. I know my kids are, they're getting older. Mine's 16 and 13. So I definitely, in the next, 5 years, want to go to a lot more events. I know we've talked a bunch about like Rocky Mountain Race Week and Drag Week and Hot Rod Power Tour and all that stuff. I haven't done any of that stuff. And those are all things that I definitely want to do, coming up soon. I think those would just be an absolute blast. And you're just hanging out with car guys for a whole week, or if you do the weekend one, it just, I don't know, it just seems like it would be so much fun.
I've done Power Tour once with my dad. I think we did in 2005. I think that's when we did Power Tour, and we did it in his Roadrunner, 68 Roadrunner, and it was from Milwaukee, Wisconsin to Kissimmee, Florida. And so he drove up in his Roadrunner, and we did the whole Power Tour from Wisconsin to Florida. And then when it was finished, we drove back to his house, and then I flew home from there. So Power Tour is one of those things that is one of the things you got to do. It's one of those ones that's like a bucket list thing if you're a real car guy. I don't know that I would do it. some guys do it every year. To me, it's one of those. I did it once. I might do it again when my son gets a little older. I think it'd be fun to do with him. I think I might want to put air conditioning on the station wagon first because it's hot. It's a long, hot week when you're every day driving, a couple hundred miles, and it's in June usually, and so it's hot, and so it's a fun week, but it'll wear you out, and so I haven't done a drag week or race week, and that's really one of those things I want to get done this next year. I've wanted to do it so bad for so long. Since the first drag week started, I've been wanting to do one. And I really wanted to do Sick Week, Tom Bailey's run. And I couldn't make it happen this year. But I think I'm going to really try next year. But I'm going to try to do Rocky Mountain 2.0. And Narc sounds like he might be my co-pilot, which would be fun. I haven't met him yet. You guys got to hang out at Cletus and Cars Indy. And I couldn't go to that. I was going to, but then we couldn't get tickets. And I think hanging out with Mike for a week, he's like, it seems like being with him for a week would be like an anxiety attack for 5 days in a row, which is, I think, perfect. It's he seems like he'd be a lot of fun to hang out with. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just crazy to think. Yeah, he came from Arkansas. We came from Illinois. We met in Indiana. Two guys. Well, actually, there was four of us. It was Dan and I, and it was him and his brother. And first time we're meeting, we're at a drag race, and we're sharing an Airbnb, and it's everything that you would think it is. We had so much fun.
Yeah. I hate that I couldn't make that. Because that's really when we started all. I think that's when our group text started, is when we were supposed to do that, and when I said I thought about going, he's like, yeah, you can stay with me. I'm like, dude, I don't even know you. Like, we're YouTube guys on different sides of the country. And he's like, yeah, you can stay with me. And I'm like, really? And my wife's like, yeah, okay, we can go. And then we couldn't get tickets. So it sold out. So learned my lesson on that one. Next time we do Cletus and Cars, I'll get my tickets ahead of time. But I hate that I missed that. I really wanted to go to that. And so maybe we'll work on that again this next year. Maybe we can try to do Indy again. I think that would be fun to do that one, and Rocky Mountain Race Week. And I think, maybe if we could get something for LS Fest, that's in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And since, you got LSs and everything you have, and I don't have LSs in anything I own, but you guys do. And Bowling Green from where I live is about an hour and a half. So, easily, a doable trip, in a day. So maybe next year we should do something LS Fest. Oh, we can get Narcs to go. He can bring his truck, so,
yeah,
maybe that would be a good thing for next year.
You've pretty much named just about every event that I would like to go to in the next, I'd love to be able to do all of them in the next year, but obviously that's just not possible. And kind of like you mentioned with the power tour, it's like, yeah, maybe you do it once, but with all the other events now, I think you could spread them out and do, a power tour one year, a drag week one year, maybe throw in a Rocky Mountain one or two in with there. But, to be able to do all those events in a year, the average person like us, there's just no way that we could do it. So you could take all those events and spread it out over 5 years and be able to hit a different type of event like that every year. And that's those are the things that I really think about wanting to do. And then you throw in LS Fest and all those just different events. There's so much stuff out there to go do. And that's just a goal going forward. I don't know if I just start chipping away at it and just start planning one or what, but I definitely want to do that. And for Cletus and Cars, we're definitely trying to put a car together to go next year. So I don't know if you've seen the Hold My Beer video, but that's our burnout car video, the one that got blown up in the BMW. So we're just looking for a chassis to put that in. And if we all do end up going, I tell you, that Airbnb we had, I am glad you didn't show up for the fact I don't know where we would have all slept. It did say that it held 8 people, but Mike had one bed, his brother had one bed. I let Dan have the third bedroom, and I was on the couch. So if you guys came, I'm not sure where we all would have been. I'm sure we would have made it work for
I
sure, but
We'll put a blanket in the bathtub and I would have been fine. I don't care. It's all about cars. When you go to one of those weekends, that's all you're worried about is the car stuff. You'll sleep later on. Yeah, I would have been fine with that. Now, if my wife would have come, that might have been different. She might have had a different story. But if it would have been just me, I would have been fine. I don't care. It's hard to prioritize. Like I said, Woodward, Cletus and Cars, LS Fest, and then the drag weeks, and now Sick Week. I really want to do Sick Week. That one seems like it's going to be the one that's going to be so much fun to do. So much just because it's shorter drives, and the events, like the stops, the picture taken stops, the checkpoints along the way seem like they're going to be so much fun. Man, I really wanted to do that one, and I just couldn't make it happen this year. But yeah, there's plenty of fun things to do if you're willing to take the time off, and if you got a car that you can go screw around with. It's a good time to be messing with hot rods right now. It seems like it's a little easier to coordinate stuff, especially when you can get on Facebook or YouTube and find other people that have similar interests. You can kind of get a group of people together and go have fun together.
yeah, I think that's one of the coolest things about starting the YouTube channel. We're still under 500 subscribers, but all the people that I've met and I've talked to, that's the really cool, I don't know, I guess you can call them wins or whatever, but just to be able to, just like right now, we're talking about getting you, and Narcs and going to LS Fest. Like that stuff we would have never been able to do without the YouTube and the social media and stuff. And we're all the same, we're all like working on our cars and hanging out. So I just think it'd be a blast, and Cletus and Cars is a blast. I highly recommend that event to anybody that has thought about going to it. It was so much fun.
Yeah, I definitely can see just watching the videos. I want to build a burnout car, and I'm like, I don't know where I'd put a burnout car, but it's like I want to go build a burnout car just because of that event. That just seems like so much fun to do that kind of stuff. Just not only exposure for your channel, but just to do that in front of thousands of people. It sounds like just an adrenaline rush to go out there and do something crazy for 2-3 minutes. Like I can't explain the want to. Like, it's so much. Like, only car guys really get that. Like, man, I just want to go out there and just burn tires off.
Right. And if you can leave that event and not want to build a burnout car, then I don't think you're a true car person. Because everybody is going to want to do that. And you're absolutely right. What's more fun than just shredding tires in front of that whole crowd? And that one, it was the largest Cletus and Cars he's had so far. And I don't know if it was because of COVID hit and they had to shut some down, but that place was absolutely packed. It was wild.
Yeah. And that place is pretty big. I've been to Indianapolis, to that track before a couple of times, and that's not a small place. I mean, that's a pretty decent sized track. And they have the circle track there and the drag strip, and there's a lot of parking. And when they were like, it's sold out, I'm like, holy cow, that's a lot. That's a big place to sell out. I've been to there for the U.S. Nationals. And so and that's it's such an epic, that racetrack is so for drag racers, that's the racetrack. That's like bucket list kind of racetrack to go to see cars at. I've actually raced on that track. I've actually made a pass on that track, and there's some history there, which is really cool. And it's cool that they have an event like that there.
Yeah. We've been talking about a bunch of different events and bucket list type stuff. So yeah, obviously where I'm at, I've been to the start of Route 66. And just this last week, I was actually for work. I was in California for the week. Beautiful weather. Came back to, Midwest and it was horrible, but being out there for a week was cool. But on my way, we flew into LAX, and on our way to where we were going, which was about an hour north, we stopped at Santa Monica Pier just because I've been there before for work and I was at Venice Beach. So this time I said, I want to go to Santa Monica Pier because they're right next to each other. And I didn't know that that's actually where Route 66 ended. So when I got down there, they've got a big thing there and it shows it. So I've officially been to the start and the end of it. So that is another bucket list item, is to actually drive the entire old Route 66.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. And I'm surprised they don't have more events where people have tried to do that. I'm not sure if the first couple hot rod power tours, I thought one of them they tried to do that, but I'm not sure if I'm correct on that. But yeah, I'm surprised they don't have more events where people try to do Route 66 and as like a group or a club or something. I'm sure there probably have been guys that have, but yeah, that's almost one of those things where that'd be a tough one, but that'd be a fun one to do too. If you had, the time to take off and do Route 66, that's another cool one. Yeah, definitely.
I've done some research on it just to see what people say the right amount of time to do it is. And a lot of people say you need 2 to 3 weeks for one direction just to be able to hit all the unique spots along the way. And if you actually want to stop and enjoy it and see different things, and that's a big chunk of time to take off to go do a trip. But it's going to be one of those things where I'm going to do it at some point. It may not be for a while, but I definitely want to do that whole route. And I think there's just so many cool stops, and that old, we talk about those old kind of like scenic places, and there's a lot of that along there.
Yeah, yeah, just the history. Even if you did, you know, a week here and then the next year you did another week, picked up where you left off, if you have to just skip up to that part. Okay, I'm going to start here and do this part this year. And then in a couple of years, I might have to do the rest of it. But yeah, it would be one of those ones where it'd be fun to take your time and really see a lot of the cool stuff and take good pictures and really I like history stuff. So to me, that would be really interesting to see the old shops and the old places that are all along Route 66. Yeah,
Yeah, you've
definitely.
got you've got all those old gas stations are still there, and your little convenient stores and restaurants and statues and all that stuff. And heck, you got the perfect car to go cruise that whole thing.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, if I could add air conditioning to it, that thing would be perfect.
Right. All right. Well, we've talked a lot about the stuff that I had kind of on my list here. We talked about different events, and I don't really have anything else. Do you?
No, just if you haven't already, check out Patina Pitstop. Hopefully, pretty soon I'm going to have a video coming up with my shift kit and the transmission. That's my next video coming up. And I'll drop the teaser that I might be getting I am getting a new daily driver. So the little S10, I love my little truck, but it does not have air conditioning. And moving from Wisconsin to Tennessee, it was a very hot, miserable summer for me. And I sucked it up because I said I would be okay. And I made it through the summer, but I don't know if I can do another summer with no air conditioning. So and the truck, it's a 2.5 4-cylinder, and it's a 4-speed manual transmission. So it just screams going down the highway, and it burns a lot of oil. Like it really burns oil bad. And I changed the valve cover gasket, and it's full of burnt oil. Like, so somebody didn't change it, and it's not in good shape. So I'm worried that the little truck's not going to make it much longer. And I really want to make it a drag car anyway. So I I talked to my dad, and he found me a new daily. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I'm already putting some new videos. It will not fit into the channel at all. It's way too fancy to be on the channel, but I'll at least do the first video, and then maybe after I get my use out of the new daily, then maybe we'll do something crazy with it. Maybe it can be a burnout car or a cart or something, crazy. So that's kind of what's going on with my channel coming up. I'm excited about my new daily because it's got air conditioning and the radio works and actually has power windows and power door locks and tilt and cruise. And my S10 doesn't even have power brakes. It's an 86, no power brakes. So it's like a factory built drag car. So eventually that's what's going to happen with that. But so that's coming up in some of my future episodes, hopefully. But hope you guys check out my channel, and I appreciate you having me on here tonight. And it's been good talking, and hopefully we'll get to hang out and do some events, maybe meet each other in person one day next year.
Oh, absolutely. I like the LS Fest idea. I think that'd be a fun weekend trip if we could all get together for something like that.
Yeah, it's close. It's close for me. So like you guys would have a place where, an hour and a half away, and that's not too far to make the drive, after, the end of the day, at least to keep you out of hotels and stuff. And, we'd have fun going back and forth. And I don't have an LS car, so like I'd have to ride with one of you guys. So
yeah, I definitely think we keep that in our group chat. We'll have to talk about that. And speaking of carts, you, sir, would be the one to blame for the Infiniti G35. I totally forgot to bring that up.
Yeah, that's right. I found it. Yeah.
I think that was I had it on my list here and I overlooked that. Yeah, you posted that in our car tuber group.
Yeah.
And
I'm like, somebody needs to get this and make it a cart and make it. And then you were like, wait a minute, I know that guy. He's like right down the road. And then you got it.
Yeah. Because that was when you were still living here in Wisconsin, right?
Yeah.
Because it was in Beloit, I think, is where it was for sale.
Yeah. That was right. The only thing wrong with that, wasn't that thing all-wheel drive or front-wheel drive?
It was all-wheel drive, but I just sold it recently. And when I did sell it, the guy asked if he could do a burnout, and I already had the cash in my hand. So I told him he could do what he wanted with it. And it did only do a rear-wheel drive burnout, though. So when I picked it up and I went bajan through the snow, it was four-wheel drive. Not exactly sure what might have happened since then, because I didn't drive it much. I only drove it a handful of times. But when he did his burnout, it was only rear wheel. So, but the problem was there wasn't a title to that one. And it was already cut, obviously, and it would need to be caged. And I just couldn't make the time to finish it. And I don't have the storage space for it. So it was sitting out in my buddy's field. And I just decided to pass that one along. And seeing the guy's face, I think he drove a few hours to come by it because there was a group of them that showed up and they all had G35s. And the smiles on their face when they were just driving it around the yard was exactly how I felt when I picked it up. And he sent me a picture, later that night when he got home, that they had already jumped it off something and, the radiator had flopped out and coolant was all over the ground. So they were having fun with it, which is exactly what I was happy to see.
That's awesome. That's so cool. That's probably the biggest reason why I was against it, is not the title, but the fact that it was all-wheel drive. And I was like, I don't know if you could make it just be rear-wheel drive and not tear something else up. Like I was like, okay, well, I guess you could cut the front axles so they're not doing anything. Like they're not going, I don't know. Like I was just, if it would have just been a rear-wheel drive, like a Caprice or a Crown Vic, then I would have been okay with it. But the fact that it was all-wheel drive, I just couldn't, like, I was like, that's going to take a lot more to make it do good burnouts. You're gonna need a lot more power to get all four spinning, which would be cool, but that's a whole nother level of, and I don't know anything about Infinitis, Nissans. I don't know how I'm sure there's ways to make them fast, but yeah, I forgot about that. That's probably what kind of got me and you originally talking to each other, was me finding that thing and wanting to buy it. And gosh, I mean, if marketplace is really, really that's going to cause my divorce, is me like, hey, I got to buy this. And my wife's like, no, we don't have to buy that. But look, this is perfect for the channel. She hates hearing that. So yeah, the marketplace it's probably caused a lot of divorces, worldwide.
I've been known to be on vacation and change my location on Marketplace to be where I'm at, just to see if there's anything worth buying.
Just in case. You never know. Just in case you're there and something is, yeah, I know. I send stuff to my dad like constantly. Every couple of days I'll send him and he doesn't even respond anymore. And I'm just like, come on, Dad, just buy this, because he's got the money and he's got a spot for it. So, and he just ignores me now. So, which is probably good.
Yeah, you should see some of the stuff that Dan and I send back and forth to each other too. I just think that if I had this dream pole barn that I want, it would be full of so many projects, because I'd find that $200 this and that $400 that, and they'd all be great buys, and it would just be full before I ever got anything done.
Yeah. One thing I've heard is you never can have a garage that's big enough, and I had a garage. The first house I bought in Wisconsin had a 5-car garage, and it was full and wasn't big enough. And my dad, his garage, I think he can get 8 cars in his basement, and it's full. Like, he has cars sitting outside, and it's like, okay, when he built, a 50 by 50 basement garage, he thought, I'll never fill this up. And, he's got engines and transmissions, and, he's got it full. So yeah, if you have more space, you're just going to find more cars. I think I sent you guys a Mustang I found for $400. I was like, oh, it was a convertible, I think. And
Yep.
The top was all rotted out. I'm like, perfect. It's a cart. It's already got the top off, and yeah, I don't need that, but I really wanted it, and I had all kinds of dreams for it. And that's part of, I'm a truck driver for a living. So I drive down the road and I just dream about what I would do to cars that I can't afford and don't have a place for it to put them or nothing else. So
Absolutely. One day though, right? We'll make it big time and we'll have all that stuff. And
yeah, we'll be just like Cletus, we're going to have a whole racetrack and a shop, and that's everyone's dream. Well, most car guys' dreams, I guess. So, he did it. So, I mean, it's got to be, there's a chance, right?
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, I know you mentioned your channel, but go ahead and again, let everybody know where they can find you. I know you've got YouTube, you've got Instagram, so go ahead and let everybody hear that, and everybody listening, make sure once this is over, you guys go and follow. He does have such great content, and I think everybody will enjoy it.
Thanks again. Yeah, Patina Pitstop on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Sometimes I do stuff on TikTok. I might get into that more. I should probably get into that more. But yeah, Patina Pitstop on all 3 of those. I do have a Facebook page too. I don't do as much on the Facebook page, but Instagram, Patina_Pitstop, and then TikTok and YouTube. Check it out. And if you found me through here, let me know. Tag 815 in there too. So just so we know how you got to me.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, Casey, for coming on. It was an absolute blast, and we will talk to everybody next time.
Sounds good.
All right. That was such a fun episode. I'm glad Casey decided to come on with us. I know that was kind of a long podcast, but it was a lot of fun for us, and hope you guys enjoyed listening. Be sure to go check out Casey at Patina Pitstop on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Go give him some likes and follows, and let him know that 815 LSx Swaps sent you over there. As always, if you want to be a guest or know somebody who wants to be a guest on the show, send us an email, 815 LSx Swaps gmail.com, and we will get some people scheduled. Again, I want to thank Casey for coming on the show, and I want to thank all you for listening. And we will see you on the next episode of 815 LSx Talk.